So Usyk has been dominant. 2 wins over Anthony Joshua, 2 wins over Tyson Fury, and 2 wins over Daniel Dubois. And that last performance, absolutely sensational. He's cleared out the era's biggest names with speed, craft, and cold control. So what's left? Who can really test him now? Let's pick 3 opponents who bring danger and a real challenge in the ring. Okay, so the first opponent that I think can bring a major challenge to Usyk is Kabayel. So let's explain why, and in explaining why, let's go through his credentials. So one of the fights that was significant for Kabayel was against Makhmudov. Now at the time, Makhmudov was undefeated. He was an undefeated fighter, and he was a power puncher, and he had size. So in that fight, what you found, I think it was in round 1, he was moving on the outside, limiting the punch opportunities for Makhmudov, limiting his chances to throw the right hand. But then in round 2 and round 3 and round 4, he got on the inside and he used really effective body punching. And one of the punch selections that he likes is similar to Canelo, because he likes to throw the right uppercut to the head and the left hook to the body. And he'll repeat that sequence. And in that fight, he showed the ability to make the transition from his style in round 1 to round 2, round 3, round 4. But he also showed effective pressure, because once he started applying the pressure, Makhmudov was unable to cope with that pressure, and he broke him down. And he broke him down with a work rate. He nullified getting hit with anything truly significant, and that was a good performance. Then the next reference point for Kabayel being a good challenger to Usyk is the Frank Sanchez fight. Now, of course, these fighters currently are not close to Usyk's level. But again, with the Frank Sanchez, I believe at the time he was undefeated. Now, there is a bit of context with the Frank Sanchez fight, and that was that he was wearing, I believe it was a brace on his knee. So I believe there may have been an injury that may have affected his mobility. So it's important to factor that in. However, you can only fight what's in front of you. And Kabayel, he used effective pressure. And he outpunched Sanchez. This is a common theme. And he was able to negate most of the counters. Now, this is important because Sanchez is a good counterpuncher. But even though he's a good counterpuncher, Kabayel had the ring intelligence to nullify those counterpunches. And again, he showed nice combinations. I believe he did it was like a left hook to the head, right hook to the body, left hook to the head. And then he had like a left hook to the head, right hook to the body, and then an overhand right to the head. So he's got these nice combinations. He's got punch creativity, he's got ring IQ, he's able to implement a plan effectively, he's able to avoid punches. And then the final exhibit to kind of say, this person would give Usyk a good fight is the Zhilei Zhang performance. Now remember, at the time, Zhilei Zhang had 2 wins over Joe Joyce, which was significant because Joe Joyce was on a roll at the time. 2 knockout wins against Joe Joyce. So, and then he had the win over Wilder. So this was, this was a Zhang that was coming to win. Now, Zhang did have the loss to Parker. It's important to factor that in. But Zhang is a southpaw. He isn't a fast fighter, but he's a strong fighter. Very strong, and he's a good counterpuncher. And he can keep you at range with his punches, and he can, he really has knockout power. But despite this, he wore Zhang down with a heavy output, and again with those sickening body shots. He really wore Zhang down. He was able to negate most of the counters. He did go down in that fight, but that's the heart check, because he went down and he got straight back up. So when we talk about the difficulty Kabayel presents, I think one of the difficulties he presents to Usyk is that he has a punch output that presents a problem, because his punch output is more like a cruiserweight than a heavyweight. And this will be something that Usyk used to deal with as a cruiserweight champion, but it would be new to him in the current day, because he would be dealing with the punch outputs of the Tyson Furies, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua, etc. So his punch output is a problem. And his ability to deal with counters is a problem. Now that's an important thing because Usyk was a deadly counterpuncher in the Daniel Dubois rematch. So he presents some problems there. And he has shown some evidence of dealing with southpaws effectively, and I'm mainly referring to Zhang. Now, obviously, Zhilei Zhang is different to Usyk, but it does give us a reference point that he can handle that southpaw position. So the southpaw position in itself won't give him problems. Obviously, Usyk's creativity and punch selection and accuracy will. Also, his punch creativity creates a problem. And again, the punch creativity Kabayel will present to the table will be probably different to anything he's faced in the heavyweight division. I think the fighter that had the most punch creativity that he dealt with was probably the Tyson Fury. In the first Tyson Fury fight, there were parts of that fight where Tyson Fury was exceptional. So in terms of difficulty level, this is a difficult fight. But here's the problem. And this is why I believe the fight is problematic and probably won't happen. Kabayel presents danger, but he does not have the brand. Yes, he's had exposure in fights, but he doesn't have, say, the brand of a Wilder, the brand of a Tyson Fury. His brand doesn't make this fight appetizing to the casual fan. The boxing fans, the people that know boxing, know this could potentially be a difficult fight, but his branding isn't there, I think. And this is important to realize, that with fights, branding is so important. It's your brand. Look at Mike Tyson. He came back at 58, and because of his brand that was built over 3 decades, the fight against Jake Paul was watched by 60 million households. So Kabayel has the fighting IQ, he has the punch creativity, seems like he has the punch resistance, but the issue is the brand. But he would present a serious test. So the second opponent to me would be Fabio Wardley. Now, Fabio Wardley has shown the ability to land knockout punches. He has knockout power. But the question before the Joseph Parker fight, a former world champion, was, does he have knockout power on a championship level? Or can he land knockout punches on a fighter that has championship caliber? And he showed in that fight that he can do that. He set traps. I think he set a trap in round 2, and that enabled him to walk Joseph Parker onto the right hand. And the thing is with Fabio Wardley is that he punches through the target. Yes, there's a risk of getting counterpunched, but also punching through the target as a power puncher heightens the ability to score the knockout. So you're kind of rolling the dice when you're punching through the target, particularly against Usyk, who is a great counterpuncher. But Wardley is a knockout artist, and he sets up traps. And he showed that against Joseph Parker, and he showed that against Justice Hooney, who I think is a good boxer, and was outboxing Fabio Wardley. But Fabio Wardley kept his composure and walked him into the right hand, and that's all she wrote. So when we talk about the difficulty of this fight for Usyk, this is a difficult one, because I would say he probably has a better knockout chance than Wilder. How could that be so if Wilder's one of the heaviest punchers of all time? I think he has a better knockout opportunity than Wilder, because Wilder currently is probably not the most confident fighter, because he's coming off the losses to Tyson Fury, that trilogy that would have taken a lot out of him, and he's coming off the loss to Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang. So I think, in theory, perhaps Deontay Wilder's the hardest puncher, or the harder puncher, but I'm not sure if he has the confidence and the ring IQ, respectively, to present the same danger as Fabio Wardley. In contrast, Fabio Wardley has the confidence of an undefeated fighter, so he has that positive psychology. He punches through the target, he sets traps, and he keeps setting traps. Even when he's getting beaten up, he doesn't get discouraged. He just keeps trying and trying. So I think his knockout opportunity, I think the word significant is probably too big of a word, but Usyk will have to be switched on for 12 rounds. Also, there's another element here. Wardley does try to land his jab a lot, and this potentially can create backhand opportunities. he does use his jab. He depends on his jab. So again, the jab and the feints and his ability to set traps, it gives him a chance. He also has a good team, so he'll come in with an elite strategy. So again, that gives him a chance. But I think the most likely outcome, even though this would be a difficult prospect for Usyk, the most likely outcome is that he could be outpointed and even stopped late in the fight. Because if Usyk is able to time those punches through the target and land the counter left, then Fabio Wardley will be in trouble. And let's not forget, in the Daniel Dubois rematch, Usyk is now punching with more authority and he's coming in heavier. And that would spell great danger for Fabio Wardley. But he does have a chance. Now, with regards to branding, Fabio Wardley has a few things going for him. He's got a British presence, which is growing exponentially. So that's good. His knockout of Frazier Clark in the rematch went viral. So there was the virality of that knockout. My assumption is that his presence is limited in the USA. So you've got the virality of Britain, or you've got the British presence, then the virality of that knockout against Frazier Clark, but then a limited visibility in America. So the point here is that he would need to probably develop his brand, which, 2 fights in America, 2 sensational knockouts, and then his brand will be right there. And clearly, I think in making the Usyk fight, you need to not only present the difficulty, but you also have to have, it has to make sense with regards to cultural impact and financial impact. And that's probably why the Deontay fight is being negotiated. Now, my third and final opponent would be Moses Itauma. Now, of course, with Moses Itauma, his most impressive performance was against Dillian Whyte. In that fight, he was fast and accurate. His jab was powerful. Obviously, he comes out in the southpaw position, and he showed in that fight that his backhand is dangerous and he can finish an experienced fighter. So that was his best opponent. However, I think ability-wise, it's like Moses Itauma has elite ability, but he has very low-level experience, and that could be significant. However, he presents, with regards to ability, he probably presents the biggest danger because he seems to have it all. So when we talk about difficulty, again, there's 2 major categories here. When we talk about strengths, southpaw stance. So Usyk doesn't have that advantage because they both fight from the southpaw stance. So typically, a southpaw stance will have an advantage over an orthodox fighter because southpaws have experience fighting orthodox fighters, but orthodox fighters don't have experience fighting southpaws. So he has that going for him. He has a great team, Ben Davidson, so he'll have a very good team, which would mean great camp. There's a big investment, so they'll put money into the team. You have the best strength and conditioning, great sparring partners, etc. Remember, the boxing environment is so important to harness a great fighter. His speed and reflexes appear to be elite. He has great patience, great confidence. So all these things are going for him. And a lot of people are seeing him as the next star, and he may be that. But his lack of experience at the elite level would be concerning. So at the time of writing, you would have to favor Usyk with, the second half of the fight, serious dominance. And the challenge, I guess, would be, could Moses destroy Usyk within the first half of the fight, which it's even hard to even comprehend that. But the speed, the reflexes, the southpaw stance, and the elite level ability, they present a unique challenge. And like I said, if Moses had the experience, then this would be a completely different situation. So it's a high-level difficulty, but the experience is a very, very significant factor, and that cannot be overlooked. However, 2 or 3 fights against significant opposition, and then the experience will change. Still, it will be overwhelmingly in Usyk's favor, but it's very important that Moses Itauma doesn't just learn the technical elements of the craft. It's important that he gets experience in front of large crowds and against tougher opposition. With regards to his brand, His brand is strong. I think there's a lot of investment and a lot of visibility with regards to Moses Itauma, and he's gaining traction in Britain. There probably is a lack of visibility in America, but again, 1 to 2 performances against American oppositions that's sensational could change that. A viral knockout could change that. He does have a fan-friendly style. He's an exciting fighter. However, some may say that he has a lack of charisma, which sounds a bit harsh, but some may say that he doesn't have the charisma of certain fighters. Think of like a Floyd Mayweather. So when we think about these fights, when we think about those 3 opponents, there is a difficulty level. But then I guess from Usyk's perspective, you have to think of, is the risk worth it? And remember, Usyk's decision is his decision, but it's probably heavily influenced by the people around him, because there are people, advisors that are looking or should be looking in his best interest. And I guess there's a few questions to ask here. Is it about legacy, or is it about money, or is it about a combination of the both? And do these fights, do they add cultural impact? Because when you've made a significant amount of money, the currency of legacy and the currency of culture, or the currency of cultural impact, becomes extremely important.